In this video, we will be covering some of the best Docker apps released in October 2025, as summarized by the Selfhst Newsletter, which we go over every Friday in our live stream. This episode will cover, in no specific order, 10 of the best apps we've seen from the newsletter, starting right now with number 10. Number 10 on the list is Dockmon. Dockmon is a comprehensive Docker container monitoring and management platform with real-time monitoring, intelligent auto restart, multi-channel alerting, and complete event logging. This is a joy to review because most Docker monitoring platforms just let you see what's going on with your Docker containers. This does far more. Starting on the dashboard, we can see we do have a host widget here for the server that it's running on, showing CPU, memory, network, and some of the top containers running right now, sorted by CPU high to low. However, I can go to my host and add additional hosts besides the one it's running on. When I go to containers, I can see a running list of containers, where they are, the ports that are exposed, some CPU and RAM statistics, as well as the ability to start a container, stop a container, restart a container, or look at its logs. Under the Deployments tab, we have the opportunity to actually deploy real Docker containers. So when I click New Deployment, it's not as simple as just pasting a compose file here. It breaks it out by section, so I'd have to give it a name, say it's a container, list the target host, list the image, port mappings, volume mappings, all these things individually, but it will actually launch a Docker container. It's simpler to do this just from template. So we have the option to do templates here. And when I go into my template section and add a new template, we can give the template a name, give it a description, set it as a deployment for a container, and then define a JSON file for it. I can see container logs here by dropping down this list and then checking off as many as I want to see, up to 15 at a time. For example, if I wanted to see the jellyfin logs, I can click here and see all the jellyfin logs. Up next is number 9. Number 9 on the list is nextExplorer. nextExplorer is a self-hosted file explorer. This is going to be something similar to File Browser or File Browser Quantum, except I kind of like this UI a little bit more. I've passed a few directories from my Mount Tank pool into this container so I can see my configs, my media, and my stacks folder. When I double click my stacks folder, I can see all the stacks I have in here, and I'm going to change this view so it's listed like this. And here I can go into my Arcane stack, and I can see my env file, and I can see my compose.yaml, and I can edit my compose.yaml. I can jump around here by going up in the arrow here, or I can go forward or back in the tree. On the left sidebar, I can jump quickly to my media stack or my stacks directory. I can make anything a favorite by simply clicking into the folder here and then clicking the star, pinning it to the left side menu. Under my user in the bottom left corner, I have the ability to change the theme or go into settings here. All in all, I think this is a really easy way to view my files. I kind of like it a little bit more than File Browser Quantum, and I think it's a little more straightforward in the way it's organized. Up next is number 8. Number 8 on the list is Tugtainer. Tugtainer is an application for automating Docker container updates with a web UI. This is basically the web UI version of Watchtower. When I log into Tugtainer, I can see a list of only my running apps. I can click refresh to make sure this list is in fact up to date. This UI is very simple. I just have a column for check and a column for update. The check column determines whether or not the app will check for an update. So I do want to check every single app for an update. I'm going to check all of these off to make sure all of them are checked for updates. Once it's checked for an update, I then have the opportunity to switch on updates at a per container level. If I wanted to update just Dozzle and Flare Solver, I can check the update check, and this app will only update Dozzle and Flare Solver. On the menu expansion on the left side, I have the opportunity to add additional hosts as well. Currently, I'm only running this on one TrueNAS server, but I can run this on as many servers as I want by clicking the Add Host button up here. Under Images, I can see all of the Docker images that are on my server, and I have the ability to prune them with a single click. This is a super simple interface, and I like it a lot. Let me know what you think in the comments below of this versus using something like Watchtower, which just runs in the background and doesn't have a web UI. Up next is number 7. Number 7 on the list is Velld. Velld is a self-hosted database backup management tool. With more and more Docker containers these days containing databases holding your data, keeping those databases backed up will be important to making sure your data stays safe. In this case, Velld allows you to add a connection to any database on your system. And within the dashboard, we can see the number of backups we have, the success rate of our backups, and how much storage we're using for those backups. We can go ahead and schedule a backup for our test DB that I've already set up here. Right now, I've set one up for a daily backup with 30 days retention, but I can always change that by going to my connections. And over here, under these action buttons, changing the schedule or automatically backing up my database immediately. We can take a backup of the database right now by clicking the play button, change the schedule backup, or edit the connection. In this case, I'll choose to schedule a backup, and right now I have it set for daily, but I can set it for hourly if I want, and change my retention period to 7 days. I then close the window and it's saved, and we can see here my schedule has been changed. And right now I'm using 7.5 megabytes to back up my database. Look at the history here. Once I start my backups, the history will show up in a linear list here of all the backups I've taken. And I can go over to my settings and add notifications if I want via email and through my dashboard, as well as adding S3 object storage in the event that I have something like MinIO or Backblaze enabled to hold my data. By hitting the switch over here, I can set my provider endpoint and then set up all the information I need for versioned object storage. I haven't seen any other containers that do something like this with this kind of UI, so I think this might end up becoming very popular just because of how many Docker containers are storing their data in databases. Next up is number 6. Number 6 on the list is IronCalc. IronCalc is a new, modern, work-in-progress spreadsheet engine and set of tools to work with spreadsheets in diverse settings. The goal of IronCalc is to replace something like Google Sheets. The main issue we have right now is that there really is no equivalent of Microsoft Excel. All the browser-based Excel-like programs don't have as much functionality. IronCalc is set out to close that gap. As of right now, this is still under development, so it still looks pretty basic, but it's definitely a good competitor for where Google Sheets is right now, and it's 100% self-hosted. We can do all the basic things we usually could in an Excel workbook here. In the top right, I have this button for sharing, and this is going to give me a world shareable URL link, so I can just copy this URL and send it to anybody, and they'll be able to work simultaneously in the same workbook that I'm working in. All in all, it's a great start. I like the idea of somebody putting some competition to Google Sheets, and I definitely believe that we need to get closer to Microsoft Excel, all browser-based. So I love the fact that somebody went out and built this. I encourage you guys to go out and donate to this project on the GitHub link provided in the video description below. Up next is number 5. Number 5 on the list is PiMan. PiMan is a modern web application for managing a fleet of Raspberry Pi devices. Unfortunately, I don't own a fleet of Raspberry Pi devices. I only really own one. So this dashboard is just going to show you my one device. On the dashboard, we can see the total number of devices listed, how many are online, how many are offline, and how many are kicking out warnings. We have the ability to assign a location to our Raspberry Pis. In this case, my one Pi is in my server rack. When I click devices, I can see the Raspberry Pi, its IP address, the last time it was pinged, its total uptime, some stats about CPU, memory, disk, and temperature, and some stats about the Raspberry Pi itself and its operating system. From here, I can click this button to view its metrics, which I get this very nice dashboard showing me all this information across the top, and then charts for CPU, memory, disk, and temperature. If I click this terminal icon here, I'm SSH'd directly into the Pi itself, and I can run any command I need right from this dashboard. By clicking the Files tab, I can see an interactive file browser and click around this file tree if I want to see what's on this operating system. By clicking the cog, I can edit the information I inputted to add this Raspberry Pi device to the dashboard. All in all, this is a really cool application in the event that you manage many Raspberry Pis. Since I only have one, it's not super informative for me, but I love the UI, I love the information I'm getting here, and I think it's a pretty easy way to manage the Pi that I do have. Up next is number 4. Number 4 on the list is Qui. Qui is a standalone container that allows you to interact with your qBittorrent instance. It is not a skin for qBittorrent, it's a completely separate container that interacts with qBittorrent over the API when you provide the username and password of your qBit instance. You can use more than one qBit instance at once with this dashboard. Clicking on my qBit instance, I'm brought to the dashboard. I can go ahead and collapse this side menu here, and I can collapse these filters if I want as well to just show the dashboard, which would usually list rows and rows of torrents. The filters are very popular. I can filter everything by just checking some of these boxes, clearing these boxes, searching by category, adding tags or searching tags, or going by tracker. Each of these columns can be filtered in on its own, and every single one of them has its own filter categories. In the top right, I can search my torrents just by typing in anything that would match anything in the rows down here, and I can change the theme in the top right. There are some premium themes here. I like Swizzin kind of the best. I think that's one of the cleanest themes that I've found so far, but you can go ahead and absolutely pay for this software and get all the premium themes unlocked. In the very right, I have the option to quick navigate, and I'll show you some of the settings. There are instances, and you can simply add an instance by clicking this button and providing the URL and authentication. There are client proxies, API keys. You can adjust the date and time if you want, pick a premium theme, or change your security. Qui is made by the same people as Autobur, and they have put out quite a few interesting containers that are really good looking and very functional for what they do. I recommend you go ahead and jump over to their GitHub and take a look at some of the other things they've built. There'll be a link in the video description below. Up next is number 3. Number 3 on the list is Homey. Homey is a simple family utility app for managing household tasks. This is the dashboard for Homey, which includes shopping items, pending chores, expiring soon, and monthly bills. The tabs across the top allow me to add something to each one of these columns. So let's look at shopping, for example. I'm going to add an item here, like milk, and then click Add Item. In the drop-down menu, I can mark it as done, delete it. In the chores list, I can add a chore like clean the kitchen. I can assign somebody to it. In this case, I'll let anybody do it. And I can give it a description and then add the chore. For tracker, I can add a subscription name here, like Netflix. And I can say it's expiring, in my case, at the end of the month, let's say December 1st, and then add this item. So not only do we have an item here like Netflix, we also see it expires soon because it has less than 30 days. For bills, we can go ahead and add a bill here. In my case, I'm going to say I have an electric bill that's $200 that's due on the 15th of the month. Click a plus to add that bill. We get a nice monthly total up here, as well as the list of bills down here. Now let's go back to our dashboard and see what we have. We have a shopping item, a pending chore, something expiring soon, and a monthly bill. The recent activity shows what we have here, and we can jump to any one of those tabs in the top by just clicking the link below. Next up is number 2. Number 2 on the list is Container Census. Container Census is a lightweight Go-powered tool that automatically scans your Docker environment across one or many hosts and gives you a clear historical view of everything running in your stack. Looking at my sample Docker Census container, I've already started up the RStack on my TrueNAS instance. So I've got 12 containers running, and when I click the monitor, I can see all of them here. I have the option of looking at all my images that are saved on my machine, and I can go ahead and prune them if I want by clicking this button. Security is interesting. When I click Scan All Images, we see here it fails to scan because the vulnerability scanner is not available yet. I'm interested to see what this is going to look like once he builds this functionality into the container. The graph is probably the most useful thing I've seen. It's really useful for things like seeing how the network is laid out. So you guys can see for my RStack, everything is connected to the same network so they can use the container names to talk to each other. But things like Dockage, the Census server, and Dozzle are all in their own independent networks, and I can see that very clearly laid out here on this network map. I have one host right now, but I could always add another host if I wanted to see Docker containers on another machine. There's a history tab here that can show me all the history of all the containers running on my machine. This can generate some really cool reports if I had this running for a longer time. Right now, I've only had it up for a few minutes. There's not a ton to see here, but if I had this running for days and days and days, there would be really interesting reports this is capable of generating. All in all, this is an interesting container, which obviously isn't completely done yet because the security component isn't totally built in. But when it is, I think this could be really interesting to be able to visualize some of the things about containers that we usually don't see through a web GUI. Up next is number 1. Number 1 on the list is GPU Hot. GPU Hot is a real-time NVIDIA GPU monitoring dashboard. I love this container for people who always ask me, how do I know whether or not my GPU is being utilized for transcode or for image or for anything that's trying to use my GPU? The answer is this container. Usually you can do something like this in the command line, but I think this is a nicer way to visualize whether or not something is actually activating your GPU. So I've got this deployed right now, and you can see my GPU is properly detected as a GTX 1650 Super. There's not a whole lot going on here. The GPU utilization is 0%. The temperature is meager right now. You can see power draw, memory clocks, a whole lot of other cool stuff here. A utilization timeline, temperature timeline, memory timeline, a bunch of other stuff all the way going down to GPU processes, as well as some host system stuff. So my current TrueNAS system is running about 11 or 12% CPU and using 89% of the RAM. Now let's actually see whether or not this can detect my transcode. In another window, I'm going to trigger a transcode by playing some media on Emby. We can see here immediately my GPU utilization jumped up into somewhere in the 20s. My temperature is now climbing, my power draw is much higher, my memory usage has gone from 300 to 600, as well as a variety of other things that have just been kicked on. When I go all the way down to active GPU processes, I can actually see what that something is. In this case, it's FFmpeg, which is the codec in this case, which is used to transcode video. We can see here, this process is taking up approximately 252 megabytes of VRAM. The interesting thing is that my system CPU is not moved at all, and this lets me know that all the transcoding is happening on the video card and none of it is on the system CPU. This is an amazing container and I really love how simple it is. Thank you all for watching another summary of the Selfhst newsletter. If you like this video, give us a like by clicking the thumbs up button below. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel to get all the latest videos on everything self-hosted. Leave a comment below if you think we missed any containers that should have been in this video. If you want to have a conversation with us about this video, jump on our Discord server, and as always, stay curious.